Hello and welcome to the Blorecast, your regular serving of aural entertainment with me, James Blore. Today we're picking up where last week's Pigging Brilliant episode left off. If you haven't listened to that yet, please do, as it sets the scene for today's reflections. And while you're at it, feel free to listen to the whole back catalogue. I'm also going to borrow the opening paragraphs from one of my blogs, as I literally couldn't put it better myself. I'll put the link to the full thing in the description. It was September 1998. I was a fresh-faced 24-year-old and had just arrived in Humane, speaking hardly a word of Slovak. Everything was new and unfamiliar. Buildings were made of concrete rather than brick, and people in the street didn't seem to smile much. Cars definitely didn't stop at pedestrian crossings, and Coke came in hard plastic bottles with refundable deposits. Had I made a mistake in coming to Slovakia? Hell no! When you've lived in the same place for a long time, you tend to stop noticing stuff. Head down, you follow your routines. Everything is passé. You focus on where you're going rather than where you are. You get sucked into your mobile phone. After spending my whole life in the UK, and most of the last 6 years in Oxford, Humane was exactly what I needed to wake me up and shake me out of my bubble of familiarity. Everything was just a little different than it had been in the UK. The electrical sockets, the pillows, the meat paste, the building materials, the doctors, the classrooms, the top-loading washing machines. The differences were not as great as they would have been in, say, Japan, but they were absolutely all around me, and each one demanded attention. Each one required me to look, to see, and to think. It was fantastic. I felt more alive than I had for years. There is no denying that some of the differences made it feel like I was stepping back in time. The patterned Pringle sweaters felt like something from the early 80s, long before Stranger Things made that fashionable again. There were grocery shops where you had to ask the shopkeeper for what you wanted, and they'd fetch it from the shelves behind the counter. These still exist here, in fact. The corner shop opposite my primary school, when I was a kid, had been like that in the 1970s, and the whole thing was extremely reminiscent of the classic sitcom Open All Hours. Then there were the carpet beaters. As I mentioned way back in episode 1, all the homes in my life till then had had wall-to-wall carpets, making it all the more perverse that we don't take our shoes off inside. But in Humane in 1998, parquet flooring and rugs were very much still the thing, and, again, still are. There were kind of metal goalposts outside each block of flats, whose purpose confused me, till I saw people sling rugs over them and beat the living hell out of them with wicker carpet beaters straight out of the 1960s. All of that said, there were ways in which Slovakia was ahead of the game. Mobile phones seemed to take off more quickly here, and chip and pin card payments were introduced in Slovakia in the early 2000s, substantially before they came to the UK. There is evidence to suggest that Slovakia, with its relatively small, tech-curious population, was used as a test market for such things before they were rolled out more widely. However, I don't think I'm being unfair when I say that Slovakia felt, in many ways, like it was in a bit of a time warp. And that was part of its charm for me, I guess. Naturally, over time, much of this has changed. I'm pretty sure top-loading washing machines are not as prevalent as they once were, and the range and quality of food available in the restaurants of Košice is absolutely fantastic. But there are still ways in which Slovakia is more firmly rooted in its past than the UK, and this is both a blessing and a curse, as Adrian would say. At this point, you might think I'm going to launch into some tirade about Slovak shop assistants just not giving a toss, but no. The service industry here is still a bit problematic at times, but I think there has been great progress in some areas, and online shopping has done a lot to reduce the remaining friction, at least for me. No, I'd like to try and get at something a bit more subtle. A few years ago, I rediscovered the joy of birdwatching. Something I'd done as a boy and kind of forgot about when I became a teenager. This topic deserves, and will surely get, its own episode. But for now, let me just say a little about how much more popular this joyful hobby is in the UK compared to Slovakia. There are Slovak birdwatchers and ornithologists, to be sure, But it is not what you would call a mainstream pastime. In the UK, there have been multiple TV programmes on and around the topic, and there are a lot of very well-financed bird sanctuaries and other birding sites. The hobby is regularly referenced in pop culture, and there are birdwatchers famous enough that regular people could name them, as well as other celebrities who talk openly about doing it in their free time. I would tentatively suggest that the idea of wandering around forests and fish ponds with a pair of binoculars is not the activity that most Slovaks associate with the countryside. This is not to suggest that Slovak people do not enjoy nature. Quite the opposite, in fact. With a population density less than half of that of the UK, Slovakia is full of lovely forests and mountains which people definitely like to visit at every opportunity. It's just that what they do there is not birdwatching, or anything like it. They hike, they cycle, they climb, they pick mushrooms or wild fruit, they grow veg, they chop wood, and they hunt. In my experience, they don't tend to focus on simply enjoying the wonderful diversity of wildlife, plants and trees, but rather on the challenge of the ride or hike, or on what Mother Nature can give them to eat. I will put forward a hypothesis to explain this difference, but I'm no sociologist or historian, so please do correct me if you think I'm wrong. I'll put all the references in the show notes, and we'll start with a few geeky stats, so please bear with me for a moment. During the Industrial Revolution of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, there was an enormous movement of people to UK cities. By 1850, indeed, more people lived in cities than in the countryside. Meanwhile, in Slovakia, the urban population did not reach 10% till the early 20th century, and it was only after the Second World War that Slovakia became predominantly urban, presumably under the influence of the communists. Today, according to government and World Bank statistics, around 85% of the UK's population live in urban areas, compared with around 54% of Slovaks. In summary, then, the UK reached 50% urbanisation around 100 years ahead of Slovakia, and Slovakia's percentage urban population hasn't increased that much in the last 70 years. And I would suggest that this is the reason why the UK is so disconnected from its agricultural past, as I mentioned last time. There is an episode in one of Jamie Oliver's series where he waves vegetables such as leeks at inner-city school kids, and they fail to correctly identify them. I'm pretty sure some of them weren't too sure where milk came from. And, to be fair, I was talking to a student only last week when I realised that I only knew what a cart horse is from books and TV programmes, and not actually from reality. And I would say that it is exactly this distance between Britain and its agricultural past that affords us the luxury of such a romanticised view of nature. We love David Attenborough and nature documentaries. We love strolling through the forest, communing with nature and observing the squirrels and birds. We have TV programmes about raising pigs in the city, and we let our gardens grow wild and untidy to encourage wildlife. Slovaks, meanwhile, still have one foot in the mud, if you'll forgive the expression. Gardens have a job to do. The forest is for mushrooms, and wild boars are either a pest or a food source. And birds, well, if they're not tasty ducks or geese, they can just fly off. This is not always a bad thing. Environmental awareness is far too low on the political agenda for my taste. But at least I don't meet too many people while I'm out birdwatching. And, in some sense, the UK is actually coming back to meet Slovakia, where it has been chilling out for the last half-century. People are giving up their ultra-processed food and going all organic. They've grown tired of city life and yearn for something simpler. They raise chickens in their gardens, forage in the forests, and watch YouTube channels about building log cabins in the wilderness. Or maybe that last one's just me, actually. It reminds me of a theory developed by my friend Grant at university. We played rugby together on one of the college teams. I was a large and useless forward, while he was a little back who'd played a lot at school. My problem was that I was super slow and never where I needed to be. Grant's stroke of genius was what he called lightning theory. I should follow the path of least resistance, by regularly doing nothing at all. Watch the ball go all the way across the field, and at least half the time it would come all the way back again, and I'd be in just the right position to flatten some poor little winger. Maybe that's Slovakia, not lagging at all, just waiting for the rest of us to catch up. So, there you go, the enigma that is Slovakia. What do you think? Does my hypothesis hold water, or is it a load of old rubbish? Do you like birdwatching, or do you prefer mushroom picking? Please do get in touch. I'll put all the links in the description. Website, email, YouTube, Facebook. Pick your favourite and say hi. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like, subscribe, share, and do all those good things. I'm James Blore, and this has been the Blorecast. See you again soon. Bye-bye.